So why do you think car break-ins and burglaries are so common in the area?
We have a lot of car break-ins, particularly around the Balmoral Dominion Road area. One of the big reasons for that would be, I think, first and foremost, the big corridors, i.e., Dominion Road. A lot of traffic. It's very easy to come into and leave the area without being detected or caught and apprehended by police. In the Balmoral area, a lot of our car break-in victims tend to be Asian, which is significant for a couple of reasons. The first being their vehicles and the items which are stolen generally are of high quality and high value. This is known by our offenders or the local offenders, and they are probably a little bit more susceptible to the to vehicle break-ins because they don't realise how prevalent it can be at certain times, particularly at night time. And a lot of the victims in these areas tend to be visitors to Balmoral who are in Balmoral for the purposes of eating at one of the many restaurants and dining eateries in the shopping precinct there.
Yeah. And is there anything more that can be done to prevent the burglaries from happening?
In terms of burglaries, it's sort of a lot of it is basic common sense. Make your house look lived in and make it look occupied. Simple things. It goes without saying, alarms are a bit of a deterrent. Fences and screenings can sort of work both ways. Sometimes a property which is screened off from the street can actually be more susceptible to burglary because it means that a burglar has or is able to spend more time to actually break into the property without being seen by neighbours.
Yeah.
Simple things, for instance, people that live on their own, or women particularly who live on their own, if they leave a big pair of big boots, for instance, on the front porch, if it's possible to leave a vehicle in a driveway, if there's more than one vehicle, that's always a good deterrent. Leaving a radio, TV on. Very important to get to know neighbours, so neighbours are aware of who should be in a particular address at a certain time of day. For instance, if all the occupants of an address work or shouldn't be there during the day, if there's somebody in the property, then it's generally known, or it should be known that they are not to be, not or shouldn't be there. A lot of it is common sense. Dogs are a huge deterrent. Generally, if someone is hell bent to get into a dress, it's usually because the person who has broken into the address is after a particular item or items that are at the address. It could be something like drugs or firearms that they are interested in. But usually with a combination of alarms, dogs, security on the window stays, that should be prevented to a large degree. A lot of burglaries or entry to houses occur with aluminium joinery being levered up using either a large screwdriver or a crowbar. The aluminium framing simply bends and is literally bends up over the latch. A really simple procedure to mitigate this risk is to buy security stays from a local hardware store. They're cheap, but they're very effective, and it doubles or triples the time that it would require to break into a house. I'm sort of I guess grasping at figures. I'm pulling them out of thin air, but anecdotally I would say most entry points are at the rear of a property where they're not visible to the street or so readily visible to neighbours. Quite often, if it's a quiet enough area or where there's enough privacy, a burglar will often simply just kick the back door in. So a decent back door with a decent deadbolt will certainly reduce the risk. It means that the burglar will have to make more noise and spend a minute or more actually kicking the door in. Your average door, to be honest, can be kicked in within a second. If you stand back and kick a door in, it will only be as secure as the wooden housing where the latch enters the door frame. And in most cases that can splinter and fracture with one good kick, and that's it. So, a decent door with a decent door stay and a high quality lock with a deadbolt would be good. Glass is, while it lets you see who's behind the door, it's also easy to break. In the case of a multi-pane door, what's usually done is a single pane's broken, smashed out, and then the hand reaches through and unlocks the door from inside. But burglary is, unfortunately, is still quite prevalent. It's a hugely invasive crime, and the effects on its victims are quite profound. We do everything we can to prevent them. I think the reason that they're being done is a lot of people don't work, and to be honest, it is a lucrative field. Sometimes it's driven, actually a lot of the time it's driven by drugs, either to look for drugs or more commonly to find a means to finance a drug habit. So high items or highly valued items, generally cash is probably the most wanted or valued commodity, but also small electronic items are also targeted generally, because they can be simply either on-sold for money, which is then used to purchase drugs, or in some cases they are directly traded for drugs. Methamphetamine probably most significantly, but also cannabis and some of the other drugs. But it's very lucrative. One single dwelling, a burglary at a single dwelling could absolutely yield thousands and thousands of dollars worth of commodities. Yeah.
What are the police doing at the moment to prevent car break-ins?
If I talk about my own team, we do a lot of education with victims. We go throughout our particular area and educate victims as to where to park their vehicles, what to do in respect of valuables, i.e. don't leave them in your car. It's simple stuff. Don't leave laptops in their car, and certainly don't leave them where they're visible from outside. Vehicles should be alarmed. That's another piece of advice that we give them. Again, it's really simple stuff, but people don't often think about it. And we also go around the areas where a lot of these break-ins occur, trying to apprehend people that we believe are not there for legitimate purposes. Quite often that's in either covert, i.e. playing cars, and in that sort of fashion we're more likely to get up close to people who are in the throes of committing vehicle crime, but we often, or probably more often, are in a highly visible police presence in marked vehicles, as well as a deterrence. Very simple way of keeping the wolves at bay, as it were. But we spend a lot of time and effort trying to curb the vehicle crime around our particular area. A lot of resources is spent. And I believe in terms of the Balmoral and Dominion Road areas that has actually, of late, has been working. So,
is there any way to catch the people that actually did it?
In terms of
the car break-ins, if there's no fingerprints or anything,
we are well aware of of local offenders who live within the area, and they are usually bail checked and kept a close eye on. It's quite often not local offenders, or I couldn't put a figure on it, but it is not necessarily a local offender. A lot of the offenders in this particular area, and I think it would be the same for a lot of Auckland, are from other areas. It's just so easy to get around the long, the long corridors such as Dominion Road, but Balmoral Road. We've got Southern Motorway here, so a lot of our offenders come from County Manukau. In terms of capturing them after the event, if there's no forensic evidence, i.e. fingerprints or blood left at the scene, which sometimes is the case, it can be quite difficult. There are CCTV cameras in certain areas, and that's something we're trying to bolster. If it's on private land, it's a little bit harder, and to get that buy-in from the private landowner. But in terms of council area, we work closely with council to try and keep places as safe as possible.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of our effort.
Yeah. Do you think the police have enough resources to be able to stop the problem?
I think it's not so much a resource issue. I mean, it's one of a number of different issues that we face at the moment. Auckland's a big city, and it is getting bigger. I think probably the way we use the resources we've got. I mean, I don't think it's a resource issue. I don't believe we're under-resourced as such, but we're certainly busy. And I think it's just a matter of us prioritising certain events. At certain times of the year, it certainly does get busier. Certainly as the weather gets hotter, people get a little bit more, I guess, mobile and more social, and things tend to happen. I mean, not necessarily vehicle crime and burglary, although that probably does occur at a higher frequency during the warmer months, but certainly a lot of the other issues that we face in terms of disorder, violence and that sort of thing at street level anyway.
Yeah. Do you attend all of the call-outs for burglaries and car break-ins, or is it not really a high enough priority?
There are specific teams that deal with different jobs. I mean, my role in a community team is we're not frontline per se, so we wouldn't routinely attend burglaries, but there would be other police officers within other units that would actually do that. We, from a community policing perspective, we are more we educate the public. We go out and try and sort out issues or problems, I guess preventing the crime as opposed to responding and reacting to it, and that's more the frontline police and other units, the burglary units that go and do all the forensic work at places that have been burgled. So,
Cool.